Too big to fail. Sounds pretty good, right? Almost like invulnerable. Almost like your bullet with your Superman. Too big to fail. It's almost like you're invulnerable to any harm. Um, well, for our purposes, it's not going to look that great to you. For what we're going to be using this term for, too big to fail, it's going to relate to a company or an industry that is so large, that has such a presence in the economy, that if it were to go out of business or even suffer significant loss or damage, it would disrupt the entire national economy as far as jobs, tax revenue, that sort of thing. Um, so, what we're going to look at is why this term applies to so many companies that have that kind of presence in our economy, and also why the government steps in to save these companies from themselves when they make bad decisions that get them in trouble. Let's start with the banking and mortgage industry. In 2006, the bottom started to fall out of the housing market, and that led to what is now known as TARP, the Troubled Assets Relief Program, that was initiated by President Bush in 2008, right at the end of his term. That's covered on slide 3. Let's look at a little history behind this. Low interest rates in the 1990s, also starting in the 1990s, you have subprime mortgages. Now, these mortgages allowed borrowers that didn't have the greatest credit rating to obtain mortgages. Now, it doesn't make much sense in hindsight, but at the time, this was a great windfall to those who wouldn't be able to afford a traditional mortgage. Well, more and more mortgage companies and banks got involved in the subprime mortgage business. And well, the good times just could not last. What you ended up with by 2006 was a very unstable, very shaky market that was made worse by interest rates that were kept too low for way too long. By the end of 2006, going into 2007, the housing prices were starting to drop. Um, a lot of these risky loans were starting to be defaulted on because the people that got them couldn't afford them in the first place. So when the economy went sour, they started losing their jobs. They weren't able to pay these loans back, and the banks and mortgage companies just started bleeding money. By 2008 and the initiation of the TARP program, they were in full panic mode, and the the government in Washington was very concerned that this was going to send the economy into a deep recession or depression. Moving on, we're actually going to stay on this thread for a little bit. Um, TARP actually saved the banking industry and the mortgage industry, but it cost $21 billion of taxpayer money, according to the Congressional Budget Office, or the CBO, as you'll hear it referred to. The banks also were a little more heavily regulated thanks to the Dodd-Frank Act. Excuse me. Um, it advocates the breakup of larger banks and requiring the banks to have more capital, more cash on hand. So, should this happen again, they'll be able to deal with it and not have to run to the federal government for yet another bailout. Let's see, on slide 5, we're going to be talking about the automobile bailout. Right about the same time, General Motors and Chrysler, through falling auto sales, competition from foreign automakers such as Toyota took the top spot from GM in 2006, overpaid union contracts, and basically just in a all around just perfect storm of negativity, just kind of perpetuated the situation at GM and Chrysler where they required a federal bailout. Chrysler ended up with about $12 billion in taxpayer aid, where GM ended up getting $50 billion in bailout money. So what they ended up having to do is GM had to fire their CEO, invest more heavily in fuel efficient and hybrid vehicles, and they had to also cut three auto brands because they were so overextended. They had too many brands, and those brands just weren't selling. So they kind of cut the fat, as it were. Chrysler went through a very similar process. They had to fire their CEO. Um, they shed brands that were not working for them, and also Fiat, an Italian car maker, um, got about 58% of Chrysler. So it seemed to the American people that Chrysler got U.S. taxpayer dollars in order to save them for an Italian car company just to take them over. This prompted a very heavy criticism of the entire bailout process, and I feel rightly so. Let's say this is all covered on slide number 5. Going forward here, slide 6 and 7, they are kind of projecting the future of the bailout process, as it were. There are experts that say you could very well see this again in the banking or auto markets. Um, the Dodd-Frank bill, some do not say goes far enough. And also, the banks and mortgage companies are fighting reform efforts that um, would, as I said earlier, break them up and or force them to have more capital on hand, so they don't have to go to Sam to save them whenever they make a mistake. So, what I hope to present during this is the case against bailing out um, American companies when they screw up. Um, all told, it was a $9.5 billion loss for the American taxpayer. Um, so, on that thought alone, I would think that the American people would look at this process and say, this is not good for the American people, and it's definitely not good for the businesses that run to the government for handouts, for bailouts, anytime that they feel that they have messed up. Um, thanks for listening.